Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise a little smarter. And today it's just me, and because Chris is on his way down to San Diego he was going to run in a half marathon, but that has been canceled, and Christy's busy at work, and so I'd like to welcome back to the show all the way from the beautiful city of Atlanta. Jenny, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Thanks for reaching out to come back on with us.
Oh, thanks. We had a good time last time, and to be honest, my husband's been bugging me, I think, since we booked the cruise. So when are you going to go back on what he calls the pod?
The pod.
So he's going to be very happy to be able to listen to this and relive our cruise.
Oh, man. Well, now I feel the pressure's on because we're going to have to put together a really good show for him, aren't we?
Yep, pretty much.
All right. All right. Well, the last time I think we left off with you guys, your daughter was crying at the diaper dash. And
Yep.
I still think that's one of my favorite pictures.
Yeah, it's my little avatar at work. So people will go on to talk to me at work, and they see that picture pop up, and I'm like, even though she's 2 now, I still keep it because it's pretty darn funny.
Yeah, so I will put that into the show one more time just so everybody can see it, just in case for our new listeners who didn't get to hear you last time, Jenny. But why don't we start off with can you remind us who all went on this cruise and a little bit of your Disney cruising background?
Sure. So it was my husband and my going to be 2-year-old daughter on the cruise. She turned 2 on the last day of our cruise. And we had done one previous cruise with her the year before. We did the Southern Caribbean out of San Juan, which that was kind of the cruise where after we got back, we decided we survived. Because if something could go wrong, it went wrong between her getting sick before we left, me getting sick, and then my husband getting sick. It was, okay, we need a makeup cruise. We need to, have something go well. And this cruise was definitely, it made up for that last cruise and then some. And so now my daughter has 2 cruises under her belt. My husband and I now have 4 cruises under our belt. So our next one that we'll be going on will be our 5th. So we'll finally hit gold. So, and then, our daughter will, eventually catch up to us.
Well, congratulations. That's a big step up when you hit gold. That's kind of nice to have that extra day in booking and so many different booking the cruises and then all the onboard activities as well.
Oh, yes.
Well, what made you guys decide to do this cruise particularly? I mean, it's kind of cool that your daughter's birthday was on the last day. Can you tell everybody the cruise you picked and then why you picked it?
Sure. So we did the 7-night Eastern Caribbean on the Fantasy, and it was a Star Wars Day at Sea. And one of the reasons we picked this cruise, as our previous cruise, we went out of San Juan, which with the way things worked with our schedules at that time, we literally got to San Juan, hotel, next morning, got on the ship, and then we came back, flew back home. So we never really got to see San Juan. So when we saw this itinerary, we thought, hey, we could actually go see San Juan that we didn't get to see last time. In Tortola, we loved Tortola. We had been there once before. And so we felt comfortable, with our daughter now being more mobile, that, okay, we feel comfortable in Tortola, let's go do that. And then since we didn't get to see San Juan, okay, we'll do that as well. And then with the Star Wars, that was just kind of a perk. I mean, my husband's a Star Wars fan. My daughter was Princess Leia for Halloween. So we already had the costume. That was already taken care of. We just thought it'd be kind of fun and just kind of see how she would react to everything. And so it ended up being a great time.
Have you seen all the films?
I have not. I know he has. He actually watched the most recent one on the ship.
Okay.
We just ran out of time to go to the movie theater. We tried to, but once you have a kid, planning around babysitters and that's much more harder than, just being able to get up and go to the movies. So that's how that one worked out, that he was able to see the last one. But I've seen some of the newer ones, like whenever they came out around Christmas, I've seen those, but I don't think I've seen the whole long series. So I was probably not the exact target market for Star Wars Day at Sea, but it just kind of ended up that way that we had that cruise.
Yeah, no problem. So let's talk about, before we get on the ship itself, the Fantasy this time. What did you guys have an opportunity to book ahead of time? So between dining, as far as either Palo Remy, also with your daughter being, how old is she again? I apologize.
2.
2. Also, with your daughter being 2, you have the ability to book some time in the nursery ahead of time and then some Star Wars kind of experiences. What did you guys book ahead of time?
So when we booked the cruise, we actually booked it under the 90-day mark. So we weren't able to be there at midnight to go ahead and book things. So as soon as we had booked the cruise, because we did the guarantee rate. Mm-hmm. So as soon as we booked it, I went to the system to see what was available. Darth Vader was one that was always available, but we figured with a 2-year-old that probably wouldn't have been the best person to go see. So that was definitely something we kept refreshing and see if we get other characters on there. But we were able to get nursery time. That was something that was readily available, which was awesome. We were also able to book the Disney Junior Character Breakfast. So we were able to do that. And then we got off the the waiting list for second dining. We got onto main dining within a month. So that was great as well. And then so the things that we had to do once we got on the ship was to do the Apollo and then to try to do the other character greetings that we would, even though we would keep refreshing every day, we weren't able to get before we left.
Kind of refresh my memory as far as the nursery goes. How much can you book ahead of time?
So I believe they said the limit is supposed to be 10 hours, but I've never, when I've gone in there, because you have to do in half an hour increments, that I've never run into that wall of it saying, oh, you booked too many hours. I think they just tell us that just to make us think like, oh, you can only book 10 hours. But when you have to do it by every half an hour, it gets very cumbersome. So I think people probably fall off after a while and don't book a lot. But I mean, we booked time on the first day because we always put her in right away to get used to it. So then that way we know, okay, we can, take her in there for other times so we can go do other things. But it was really easy. We never had a problem. Even once we got on the ship, we'd go in and say, hey, can she come in tonight? Or, hey, can she come in during nap time? And we never ran into an issue of them saying no. They were always like, yeah, not a problem.
That's a good tip there as far as getting them, that works with the bigger kids too, as far as the kids club goes, get them in there early, get them used to it. But my guess is probably with the nursery, they limit it initially, but as long as they got availability, they're never going to turn you away, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and I think that's a good tip, that was maybe a good thought on Darth Vader. I remember going to meet Darth Vader when my youngest son was, I think, 6 or so, down in Disneyland. And not only was he nervous, I was nervous going to meet him, to be completely honest. It was kind of intimidating going back there. So, yeah. So let's go back to your guaranteed cabin, too. When did you find out which cabin you guys got?
So we found out the 10 days prior. So that seems to be the standard process for them, is they typically do it the 10 days prior, and it's either on a Tuesday or a Thursday. So literally that Tuesday morning, I started refreshing at the 10-day mark going, okay, when are we going to see it? When are we going to see it? When are we going to see it? And then that afternoon, I think it was before 2:00, our cabin number was up. And we had, 10650, which we'd never been on the 10th floor before. We've only been on 9 on the Fantasy. And it was also in the aft, which we'd never been on the aft before. We were in the forward. And it was interesting looking at the Facebook cruise group to see who got different stuff in that. And, people had gotten different. I think 5 was a really popular floor that people had gotten on the guarantee rate. And they had gotten just the regular veranda room. And the way ours was, we were in the aft, we had a little bit of an obstruction. So basically where we were, if we walked out, right above us was cabanas. Okay. So that little bump out that they have, that's where our room was under. So we kind of had these poles coming out from the front. So you could still look out and see everything. But if you just look straight up, you saw the bottom of cabanas.
Gotcha. We weren't there because we weren't on the total aft, but we were in the back right on the Fantasy when we sailed, and we booked purposely one of the obstructed verandas, I guess. And it really wasn't that bad, I didn't think. So. Yeah,
it wasn't bad until we started coming back from San Juan to head back towards Castaway. And then it was this is a lot more vibrations than we would have expected than we had read about online ahead of time.
Okay, yeah, I totally understand that. All right, well, you guys live in Atlanta, so you head down, and this cruise leaves out of Port Canaveral. How'd you guys get down? Did you spend some time in the parks, or did you head straight to Port Canaveral once you get down to Florida?
So this time, normally when we go out of Port Canaveral, we fly in day of, but because it was winter time and, with our daughter now, we're like, hey, let's break that. Let's go in the day before. So her and I actually had flown in that morning so we could go into the park and see some friends of ours. And then my husband joined us after work later that day. So we were able to go to the resort, kind of get settled in there. We placed an order with Target so we could get all her diapers and wipes and that, because we didn't want to lug all of that with us. So we just did an order, and they just delivered that to the hotel, I think within 2 hours from when I ordered it, which was great. And then that way I could get everything organized and packed for that. She was able to take a nap, and then we did a quick walk through Epcot to see the Festival of the Arts and to try the Skyliner, which my husband was afraid to do, so that's why we did it ourselves. And then she was very unimpressed with it. She just sat in her stroller and was like, "This is it." I think she was expecting a ride. I don't know.
She's like, meh.
Yeah, pretty much. You just picture her. She's looking up and like, seriously, this is it. So yeah, we did that, and then we explored Disney Springs that night, and then before we knew it, it was the next morning and it was time to get on the ship.
Before we get on the ship, what did you think of Festival of the Arts? I've only walked through that once. I spent one day down there about a year ago, and I loved it. I thought it was really cool to see all the different artists and the work that they had out there.
Oh, yeah, it is definitely cool, but it's also very weird when you walk into Epcot with all the construction now. That, I mean, it's just walls. Like, you got to get through the whole giant path of walls before you can actually get back to, like, where the festival stuff was. And it was pretty cool where they had the different, where you could get, like, the paint cup with the brush and you could, like, paint in the different squares, which I think next year, I think I would trust her to be able to go try that herself. So I think this year just would have ended up all of the paint would have been on her. But there's a lot of different stuff between the chalk art and then the other arts all throughout the World Showcase. And I remember some of those stuff when they used to do Festival of the Masters when it was Downtown Disney. And it's like they've just taken that and it's just exploded all over Epcot. And then they got the food component of it. I mean, you know, for a Friday, I mean, it was pretty busy. I mean, it was a little chilly, but it was pretty decent traffic for a Friday. Because I remember Fridays back in, you know, February did not used to be that way. So it's definitely up the traffic in Epcot.
It's kind of like a habit trail getting back there. It seems like, as far as like, you know, for your hamster.
Oh, yes. Pretty much, yeah.
So try and find your path back there. So, okay. Well, how did you guys get out to Port Canaveral this time, staying at Walt Disney World initially?
So we toyed with a couple of different ideas because we had stayed at Port Orleans French Quarter. And so we toyed with 3 different ideas. It was we could take the transport directly from the resort to the ship, or we could get private transportation to and from, or we could go take Magical Express to the airport and then go from the airport to the ship. And we tossed the ideas back and forth, and we landed on, we didn't want to be late to the ship. We didn't want to be getting there at 1, 2 o'clock because we wanted to get down there. We wanted to try to get some of the character greetings, wanted to try to get Paulo, and we were afraid that by the time we get there, everything would be sold out. And so it was like, okay, we're not going to do that option. And then it was, okay, these two. And the trip, when we looked at the cost of private transport versus Disney, well, since she's under 3, she's not charged. And so it would have cost more to do the private transport based on she doesn't get charged at Disney. So we decided to do the little bit more time, took more time, but we got their earlier version of we took Magical Express from our hotel to the airport. And then when we got to the airport, we took our luggage and ourselves down to the Disney Cruise Line transportation at the airport and took that over to the port.
Does that leave a little bit sooner or a little bit earlier?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They start running those buses earlier. But of course, on the day that we left, the Coast Guard did inspection.
Oh.
So everything was getting bumped back in time because we landed at the time that we got there, and we're like, why are all these lines? Like, we've gotten off a plane, gotten here, and got on the boat. And that's, you know, everyone kind of sitting around like, oh, maybe it's the passport thing, because that's when they started looking at every page of your passport. So we thought, okay, maybe that's backing up the port. And then we started going online, and that's when people were at the port were already saying that the Coast Guard was doing inspections, so all the times were backed up. And so that was taking longer. But the good thing is once we got on the bus to get there and we got in, I mean, we literally checked in and got on the boat immediately. There was no wait whatsoever. So that was very nice.
Well, so you guys get back on board the Disney Fantasy. What did you think of her as you got back on board with her?
It was funny because my husband, you know, the last ship we were on was the Wonder. So a smaller ship and we're back on a big ship. And I think it took him a little bit to adjust because he was so used to everything was really quick to get to. And this one, he did a little bit more walking, especially being on the aft. Because I don't think you realize how big a difference walking-wise there is between the midship and the aft elevator. It almost feels like you're going like, if there would be another set of elevators, you'd be passing those to get to the aft elevators because it's so far down. And we were always used to forward. So we definitely got our steps in. I think we did about 15,000 steps a day, just walking back and forth. And of course, you know, chasing a 2-year-old around. But it was definitely, you know, great to be back. We know where everything is on that ship. I went and found my friend the ice cream machine as soon as we got on. So it was like we've been reunited. And then we did the dumbest thing we could do is introduced our daughter to the ice cream machine. And, you know, she loved that every day. She wanted her ice cream cone with her vanilla ice cream. And, you know, she was good to go. And we went to Cabanas, and Cabanas was just as wonderful as I remembered it. And we had a great lunch, and it felt good to be back.
Does that feel like a home ship to you? Does the Fantasy?
I think so, just because that's the one that, you know, him and I we've been on it 3 out of the 4 times we've cruised together. We've been on that ship. So it's kind of, you know, like we know where everything is. We know how to get around and shortcuts to things. So it's, you know, it's definitely my favorite for now.
Yeah, that ice cream machine is kind of like, once you introduce that to your daughter, it's kind of like booking that veranda cabin the first time. You just can't go back, can you?
Pretty much.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go through your cruise here. So you guys leave Port Canaveral. It's 2 days at sea. Then you have Tortola, San Juan, another day at sea, Castaway Cay, back to Port Canaveral. We talked a little bit about your cabin. Anything else about the cabin that you wanted to talk about as far as, you said there were some vibrations in the back, but besides the vibrations, did you find it more convenient to be in the back of the ship, or would you rather be midship or towards the front?
For cabanas to go to the drink station, it was in a great location. Because, we were literally one flight up and there was cabanas, and, that was great because if we forgot something when we were eating cabanas, we could just run down because our room was literally right off the elevator. So, you probably couldn't get any closer if you tried. So that was great. The not so great part was the vibrations, because when we left San Juan to head back, it literally vibrated for 24 hours straight. And it wasn't those nice, like kind of soft vibrations. It was like rough. We would wake up in the middle of the night and we'd have to convince ourselves to go back to sleep. And even our daughter would wake up, and she loves plane turbulence. So you knew the vibrations were bad when she was waking up, because normally she can sleep right through that. So that was not so great part. That night we did not get much sleep. And my husband was saying, he's like, next time, we got to pay more to get somewhere else, because we had lucked out the other times we done guarantee, we had gotten forward. So we were used to forward. We did mid on the Wonder, so we were used to being up closer to the front and then just being in the back. It was, like I say, it wasn't bad until we started heading back. And those vibrations, that was rough. It was a very rough night, no pun intended, night of sleep that night.
I wonder if it's because they really need to pick up their speed to get from San Juan up to Castaway Cay because of the distance that maybe you're getting that. But,
we've heard that. And we actually had Palo that night as well. And we had asked our server, and he's like, yeah, this is like, these seas are pretty rough tonight, because there was people, they're actually moving them around Palo because the vibrations that were so bad that people were starting to not feel good. And so they're trying to move them to seats within the restaurant that, hopefully did not feel the vibrations. But it was really bad up there. Like, we ended up having to go more towards the midship, and then it wasn't bad. Like, you really didn't feel anything. So I think it's a combination of the seas and then, the unfortunately known vibration issues of the Fantasy. We just never thought it would be like that. You hear the stories and you're like, oh, it can't be that bad. And then it's, oh yeah, it can get that bad, unfortunately.
Well, I'm sorry you guys had that for that day and a half or so. With your daughter being 2, how does the bed work for you guys? Which one did she sleep on? And I'm just trying to, go back to those days when our kids are a little bit younger. Did you have any problems with her, like, staying in the bed at all? Or, like, I'm trying to remember if that's the age or if it's a little bit, like, younger than that, I guess.
Well, this was probably her last one. So we did have the pack and play this time, but this will be the last time, because we noticed this the night before we even got on the ship, and we had the pack and play in the hotel room, that she's too long. Like, she's what, 32 inches long, I think. She has to be sideways. Otherwise, if she's straight, she hits, like, her head and feet will hit the edges. So we know this is the last time for her to be in that, because she's just getting too long. And so we definitely know next time that she'll be in the bed. And we've already thought it through, going, all right, yep, she's gonna be on the couch bed. So, like, there's no way we're putting her up on the pull down. As cool as that would be, we're like, yeah, we're just gonna put you on there, because she would nap just on the regular bed and nap, but she does like to wiggle around. But we are kind of looking forward to next time where we don't have to have that pack and play in the middle of the room. It's like, we'll lose the couch, but we don't really use the couch. But it'll definitely be nice to have that extra room.
Oh, yeah, that's really going to open it up. That's for sure. Because they've got the side rails on the top bed, but they don't have that on the couch bed, do they, for the kids when they're younger?
I don't think so, but I've heard you can ask for them, but I don't know. We'll, knock on wood, we'll find out next year.
There you go. Okay. Well, let's turn to the nursery a little bit. What was your daughter's experience in the nursery? And if you have any, this is kind of one of those areas we talk about it every now and then, but we don't talk about it probably enough. And I know there's a lot of people that, are newer cruisers with Disney Cruise Line. So if you have any tips to the nursery as well, I'd love to hear them.
Well, first thing we did after we ate lunch when we got on the ship is we went to the nursery, because we wanted to get her used to the nursery, because we wanted to send her there often, but not, and we wanted her to get used to it. And so we took her in there, walked her around, introduced her to the counselors, kind of set her down on the ground so she could kind of play with things. And this time it worked much better than last time, because we were on the Wonder. We tried to set her down. She was very clingy. If one of the hosts came up, she would start crying and all that. Where this time she played, she kind of looked at him wearily, like, yeah, I don't know about you. But, she was much more, and this may have something to do with also, she goes to, daycare 5 days a week. So she's used to kind of adapting to different people. And so she was able to adapt a bit better and walk around, and she started playing with things. And, she was much more comfortable this time when we did the first introduction versus last year when she was only 1 on the Wonder. So that was definitely beneficial. And then also, too, when we got there, we were able to register, get our Magic Band, get all that set up. And then also at that time, they had asked us, do we want to put in more hours? So we were able to go ahead and schedule some more nursery time in there. The only thing that happened to us this time, which didn't happen last time, is that my daughter, she will not drink water. She's weird. She has to have either milk or juice or Pedialyte, but anything we have, we water it down for the juice or Pedialyte. And we had left some Pedialyte mix in her bag when we turned it in. And when we came to pick her up, they're like, oh, you had medicine in here. And we said, we did. We had boogie wipes, but that's not, medicine. It was the Pedialyte. So anything that, that type of thing, they consider that medicine. So they won't let that stay in their diaper bag. They actually take that out and put it somewhere else. And so when you come pick them up, they'll give you back your diaper bag, but then they also give you another bag that has anything that they consider, that you shouldn't be bringing into the nursery. And I just thought that was interesting. I'm like, wow. I never would have thought that, a non-mixed Pedialyte would be something that would be on the, the quote unquote banned list from the nursery. But, apparently it is, because anything that you give them, it's either formula or they have to provide it in regards to drink. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Did you bring any other things for her, like blankets or anything like that, to kind of make her feel at home?
No, we had thought about bringing, she has a couple stuffed Minnie Mouses, but we were afraid they were going to get lost in there. So, but she does pretty well, because at school she doesn't have anything special for nap time. She has the school provided blanket and that. So we just, have her, she just takes herself, and then, our basic, diapers and wipes and boogie wipes. And, we just kind of leave it at that. And she works pretty well with that.
Well, just for everybody listening, as of March 2020, it's $4.50 for the first half hour, so $9 for an hour. It looks like and you were saying you book it at 30-minute increments, but it's a 1 hour minimum. So it's kind of weird the way they do that, the way they break it down. Well, speaking of food, let's turn to the food. What, you guys got the first dining, so that worked out good for you. What was your experience dining on the Fantasy this time?
It was definitely good. We had very high standards from the Wonder, because they really took care of us. And of course, that was the first time we'd gone with our daughters. So, they kind of set the standards high, and it was, okay, how are we going to do this time? Because we did remember from our previous cruises, we liked the main dining on the smaller ship better than the bigger ship. So it was kind of like, okay, we kind of knew walking in, with the food stuff. Plus, this was the first time she was actually going to eat anything that we were not bringing her any food. So she was going to eat whatever they either had on the menu, or if they were going to bring fruit or anything like that. And so that was an adventure in itself, because the first couple nights, they're kind of getting used to you and the speeds and that. And she's the type of kid where you sit down, you eat, you're done. And if that's not done in 5 to 10 minutes, she's going to scream bloody murder. So for dining, it was kind of a challenge that, dining does not go that quick. They can speed it up, and they would have, as soon as we sat down, they would have a plate of bananas for her so she could start eating. And then they'd ask, okay, what does she want to eat? And so by the time we got our appetizer, she would already have her mac and cheese or whatever it is that she was eating that night in front of her. But then the challenge, once she was done, then she was done. And we still had to eat. So that was a challenge in itself. Like, my husband would have to go take her out, walk her around, then come back in. And then we would literally take turns holding her, because she would decide, okay, I'm done eating. What is mommy and daddy eating? And she'd have to sit on our laps and see what we were eating. And it was like, oh my God, because she was just used to being at home. Once she was done, she'd get down and go play.
Right.
Instead, it was here is you have to sit for an hour. And it was tough for us at times, because our seatmates, they had, I think he was 9 months old. And, he's watching her, and in my mind, I'm going, oh no, what is he learning from her? Please don't go home and do these things. I'm like, these people are going to hate us if, he goes and starts throwing his bottle and this and that. And I'm like, please don't. And I talked to his mom after we got back. I said, how's how he's doing? She's like, oh, he's good. I'm like, oh, so he didn't pick up any bad habits. She's like, nope. I was like, okay, either she's being nice or he didn't pick up anything. I'm hoping it's that he didn't pick up anything, because, with our dinners being longer than usual, it was challenging trying to keep her focused and not, throwing a fit, because we were still eating and she wasn't.
Did she have a favorite restaurant by any chance? Did she like Animator's Palette when you were in there, as far as like the show going on, or?
Oh yeah, she definitely liked that. She likes the screens. She loves to watch, she calls it Mimi. So anything that's Mimi, which is equals both Mickey and Minnie. So anytime that would come up, she would start watching, and we would show her Crush, and she would start watching that. And then, of course, when that ended, it was, okay, now what? So she definitely liked to be entertained and kept busy, because I know the one night we were in, is it Royal Court? I forget which one is on the Fantasy. That dinner unfortunately got delayed longer, and there's the where spot we were at, there was really nothing to look at. There was really nothing to keep you entertained. I think that was our toughest night. And then later we had found out, our server came and apologized and said they were having issues in the kitchen and things were taking longer and so on and so forth. I mean, and that was a struggle where we literally had to ask, can we just take our desserts back to our room? You know, our daughter's melting down. Dinner is now approaching 90 minutes. You know, we need to speed this thing up and that. So that was a tough night. But I would definitely say, yeah, Animators, you know, definitely was her favorite for just having the different stuff to kind of keep her distracted.
Have you ever thought about going to Cabanas in the evening instead?
We had talked about that, and we always said we were going to go, but I don't know what. We just never got around to it. I mean, the night we did Palo, if we hadn't done Palo that night, we probably would have went to Cabanas. Because when we looked at the menu, we were like, there is really nothing on here that we like.
Yeah.
And so that definitely would have been a night to go to Cabanas. But no, I mean, because the times we'd walk through that, because we'd have to walk through that or get down to our room. I mean, it was pretty hopping. Like, they had a decent crowd in there, you know, each night that we would go through there. So it was definitely a popular place for our sailing.
Yeah, I don't know why I keep pushing Cabanas. We've enjoyed our dinners up there, and they tend to be a little bit faster sometimes. So
go
ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, no, I agree with you, because we did that on our very first cruise, and yeah, it was very quick, and you know, it was a good experience, and we've always talked, if we do a shorter cruise, that, you know, we would most definitely go up to Cabanas and, you know, kind of skip the main dining, so that way we could be through it faster. But we just, you know, that's just another reason to go on another cruise, to go to Cabanas.
Exactly. So let's talk about Palo quick. What did you guys get at Palo this time?
So Palo, it was good. Like I say, unfortunately, it was the night where it was kind of the more bumpier seas. And so I for the first time, was starting to get my stomach was starting to get all unsettled. And it was kind of like, all right, can we hurry this meal up? Because my stomach's not feeling good. But no, it was good. They've definitely, and I don't know if you've experienced, they've definitely cut back on the food in Palo, because when you'd first come in, you know, you sit down, you order, you would get the bread, and then you'd get the charcuterie where you pick the different stuff out. Well, now that's an appetizer. The bread you still get, but the other piece is now considered an appetizer. And so when I asked, and mind you, we had an 8 o'clock seating, so we had been eating at 6 o'clock for the beginning of the week. So we're starving. So we're like, it's Palo. We're going to eat. We're going to enjoy ourselves. And so at 8 o'clock, you know, we're hungry. And when that bread came, we literally scarfed it down in like 2 seconds. And then we're like, where's the other stuff? And they're like, oh, that's an appetizer. I'm like, well, can we order that on top? And they're like, well, we would have to ask and this and that. And we're like, all right, whatever. Let's just get our appetite. And I mean, everything, I don't know if because we were hungry, but it seemed so slow. Like it may have been the full 2 hours and we just didn't realize it at other points, but it just felt like the service was just so slow that we were always constantly hungry, like waiting for the next thing to show up. And because we would get our appetizer, which I got the tomato mozzarella, which is, I think, the best thing ever up there. And my husband got his usual, I can't think of what it's called now. This is so horrible. He's going to get mad at me. But he got his usual, I should say. And we scarfed that thing down. And then for the entrees, I'd gotten the scallops, and I think he had gotten the steak it was. I mean, and it was good. But by then, I mean, the boat was really rocking because we had people actually moving down to where we were, because we were more towards the back, like the entrance of the restaurant, and more people had started moving that way. And they'd mentioned, like, yeah, the seas are a little bit rougher, so we're moving folks out. We still had, room in our stomachs for the souffles. I had gotten the espresso. He got the chocolate. They were both great. And then we'd also gotten the limoncello tart, which our server, we'd asked for limoncello. He assumed it was the tart. We wanted the drink. So we got both. Also, we got the tart and the drink. And so that was a good way to end our night and then go walk off some of that food. I
love that limoncello drink that they give you, and I'm totally partial to that tart as well. So
it was a good tart.
Yeah, it would be a good way to end it. Well, I'm sorry it wasn't a perfect dinner, but I'm glad you guys were able to experience that and maybe have like one dinner where you could actually talk to each other a little bit while your daughter was in the nursery, I believe.
Exactly. It was great. And the funny thing was, this was it was Wednesday night. And so it was the night before the Star Wars Day. And they were like, if you want to come back, we have openings. And I'd never been on a ship where they're like, you can come back again. Because normally you have to dine the first night and then you can book another. But again, this was Wednesday. Like, we could have booked Thursday and Friday if we wanted. Like, they weren't that busy, which was really surprising.
Was it full? Was your ship full? Do you know?
Yep, they said there was no upgrades available because somebody had actually called the week of our cruise, and well, at that time we still had the Royal Suite available.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was still available for how much? I think it was like $25,000 at that point, which we joked, we're like, hey, you're only for 20,000 more, we can get the Royal Suite.
Yeah, that would be pretty amazing if they upgraded you to the Royal Suite somehow. So, but that probably doesn't happen very often, does it?
No.
Well, let's turn to some of the onboard stuff that you guys got to do. What were some of the things that you guys did this time as a family, and then some of the things maybe you and your husband enjoyed?
Well, one thing we made sure to do is we took her to the diaper dash so she could see, like, hey, do you remember doing this last year? You see, these babies aren't crying. And she kind of watched it and was like, eh. And we're like, see, you could have, because we had the problem on our ship this year, nobody could crawl. Like the kids would either stop and just stare or they would get up and start walking.
Uh-huh.
So literally the winner was the one kid that actually crawled from point A to point B. There's only one kid that could. Otherwise, the kids just were too little that they couldn't crawl or they could walk.
Okay.
So it was pretty funny every time they were trying to get somebody to crawl and they just couldn't. Like they were like way too young or too old. And it was just like, I'm like, man, she could have ruled this, but no. She wouldn't do it last year. So we made sure to do that. And then what else did we do? Oh, we spent a lot more time in the lobby this time. And so like after, before and after dinner where they have the music going on, because this kid loves to dance. Like she loves music. So she would just be dancing and walking around the atrium, and she would just be having a grand old time. Like the hardest part was trying to keep up with her because, when they're that little, they can like zoom in 2.5 seconds. And so just chasing her around, and she was just having so much fun, and she'd be dancing with other kids and all that. I mean, we definitely didn't do that last time, but I remember seeing it on previous times before she was born, and it was kind of interesting now that we're, what we had watched years ago, we were now partaking in watching the kid dance around and then chasing said kid around. And we also got to do more character, like spending time with the princesses, which we really didn't do last time. We were shocked when it happened, and then it backfired on us. Cinderella came up to her and said hi and took her hand, and she started walking with Cinderella. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's actually walking with the kid. And before I could get my video turned on my phone, she turned around and went, wait, where's mommy and daddy? And just burst into tears.
Oh,
I think she thought Cinderella was taking her away.
Oh,
we're like,
no.
no, we're right here. And I'm like, the perfect moment. I didn't have my phone ready. But she was definitely better with them this year, because last year was a lot of crying. This year she was giving them the high fives and, shaking hands and giving hugs, and the hugs to the princesses. So she's still the other character. She was still like, I'll give you a high five. I'm not going to hug you quite yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that mouse.
Yes, seriously. But she was definitely more engaged. So we're slowly getting there. We're working our way, up there. But it was definitely with the princesses and that it was easier for her to engage with them. She wasn't as afraid versus with the other characters. She was kind of like, eh. But it was cute to see, like, all right, hey, here's Minnie Mouse. Here's your Mimi. Here's your Mimi. And she was kind of like, I don't know. This is much bigger than on TV. I don't know. My Stuffy's a lot smaller than this. And she was kind of apprehensive, but we definitely got some cute photos of it.
So I got to ask this for Chris. Did you get to see Captain Minnie by any chance?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, Captain Minnie came out on our last day. They had because they have the characters come out twice. They have them come out like around the time where they're getting ready to pull it from Castaway. And then they had the, Till We Meet Again show. Mm-hmm. And so she was out for the 4:00 for the earlier one. And of course my daughter's napping. And I was like, oh, I'm like, all right. And they said, all right, the characters will be back for the show. And I was like, okay, great. We'll see Captain, Minnie after. Nope. That was the only time that we saw her. And of course my daughter was napping. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I was just like, no. But at least I got to see it. But I was just like, man. And he was like, well, I'll wake her up. I'm like, And of course, she had magically woken up. But then, of course, they were gone. But I was just like, the one opportunity. Because they had more characters earlier in the day than at the show, because we were getting a bunch of autographs. And a lot of the characters like Stitch and, Captain Minnie, they weren't back for the later show. Like Minnie was there, but Captain Minnie wasn't there. Stitch wasn't there. So they kind of changed up who was at the earlier versus the later. So if there's characters that you really want to see that are going to be at that earlier one, that 4:00-ish time, definitely go to that one, because you can't guarantee who you're going to see at that 10:00 one, because I don't know if it's because of scheduling or what, but if there's a character that you really want to see before you get off that ship, go earlier versus later, because they're not always going to be at that later one.
Well, that's a good tip there. Well, besides some of the characters, how about the pool area? Did your daughter get into the splash pad at all, or what'd you guys do with that?
Well, she's in swim lessons, so we were really hoping, because last year she did not like the splash pad. So we're hoping, all right, you love swim lessons, you love being in the water, let's take you in there. Nope. She was just like, what is this thing squirting at me? Why is water shooting at me? No. I don't like this slide. There's water. It's wet. And she just melted down. We're like, this thing is supposed to, like, these kids are running around younger than her, you know, laughing, having a great time. And she's like, no, get me out of here. And she's actually eyeing up the pools. Which, of course, you know, she's in a swim diaper. She can't go in. But she was pretty much eyeing up the pools every single day. She wanted to go in there so bad. But it's like, you can't go in there. And they even had the signs up on the deck above the pool deck there where they have that. It looks like a kiddie pool. But, you know, and they have the signs, you know, no swim diapers, which is like, this would be a perfect pool for, you know, smaller kids. And then that one where it used to be the hot tub, which is now a pool that's on the pool deck.
Right.
You know, they have the sign there, no swim diapers. Even though I did spot one kid in there with a swim diaper, and I'm like, this kid's going to ruin it for everybody.
Yeah.
They're going to ruin it. They're going to crap in there, and they're going to ruin it for everybody. But I'm like, because she wanted to go in there so bad. And it was like, yeah, the only pool you're getting on this trip is in the bathtub, because you can't go. And we felt bad because she was eyeing them. And it was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, and of course, my husband's like, this is why she's going to be potty trained by the next cruise and she can go in the pool. And I'm like, good luck with that.
Well, just let her know about that. You know, I mean, that's what our son, I remember our son, like when our oldest, he was like, I'm not going to be potty trained until I go to preschool. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And sure enough, to the day he made up his mind, like the day preschool started, he was potty trained. And so maybe let her know that if she's potty trained, she can go in that pool.
Yeah, we'll try that. Yeah, because we were told this week, like, yeah, she can start potty training. We're like, oh boy.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're ready for this.
Try some psychology on her, see if that'll work. I don't know. Don't take advice from podcasters, I guess is what I should say.
Hey, you never know.
Yeah. Well, how about you and your husband? Did you guys get a chance to do some things by yourselves too? Did you make it to the shows, or did you have some time to maybe spend up at, why can't I find the name of our favorite place? And I can't even talk about the coffee shop. Holy cow.
Cove Cafe.
Cove Cafe, or any place around the ship. Yeah.
Yep. So we did, we put in some time during her nap times. We figured that'd be a great time. She can nap in there. Then we can go, you know, run around. And because we had a mixology book, so we were able to do that. And then we also just took time. We went to the Cove Cafe, because my husband had actually never really been in there. Like, I think he maybe walked through it, but never actually been in there and got anything. So we did that. We played some mini golf. We were very disappointed they took away the ping pong tables, because I am the ping pong champion in our family on this ship. He's going to vehemently deny it, but he's not here, so he can't. So they took that away, which is a bit disappointing. We couldn't do that, but we did get our mini golf in. We did the aqueduct, which was just as cold as I remember. So we were able to do that. One unfortunate thing on that is on our last day, someone actually had a protein spill in the aqueduct.
Oh, no.
And it was closed down for Castaway Key Day. I don't know what time of day it had happened, but I think he said it opened up finally late that night. But yeah, so it's like the last day. So you think, oh, I can get, on the ship early and go to. Yeah, no, that was not the case. I don't know how they cleaned that out, but we actually saw people walking through them. But yeah, I felt bad for all the people that were like, all right, we can go on there because it's not going to be bad. And no, it's closed down. So
oh, man.
That was not fun. And then we got to do the adult pool, which we didn't get to do last trip. So we were definitely glad to be able to do that. And it was just nice just to be able to sit there. And it was a very popular place. It was always full. But it was nice just to sit there, with a beverage and, listen to the music and just, kind of hang out and relax while, she's in the nursery, which we thought she was sleeping. Then unbeknownst to us, she wasn't, but, she was in the nursery and we just got to hang out and and we never got a phone call the entire time that she was in there to come get her, which was great. And, we just kind of, it was nice having that time to, kind of relax and, not be chasing, her around, which was something we didn't get as much opportunity to do on the last cruise. And so this time we kind of made up for it. And it's going to be interesting for next time because she's probably going to be right around that 3 age to see of, are we going to do nursery for what time? Is she going to go into the kids club? Because we definitely want to keep having that, adults only time and let her kind of do her own thing. Cause it's as my husband said, it's all of ours vacations. It's not just hers. So, we definitely need to make time to, hang out by ourselves.
And I think that's what we love about the cruise ourselves, is my wife and I do. And I call it the kid cave, to be completely honest. You guys are kind of in the middle of the kid cave right now, and you're just slowly coming out. You see the light at the end of the tunnel, unless you guys decide to have another kid, and then you end up back in the cave again. But
no, we are good.
Okay.
He's a handful. We're done.
Yeah. But you start to see that light at the end of the tunnel, and you get a little bit more, time by yourselves to be able to kind of relax on these vacations as well. Was your mixology in the Meridian Lounge by any chance?
No, although it was the last time when we were on the Fantasy, it was in there. This time it was in the Cityscape one.
Skylines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was in there, which this time it was different because the previous time we done it, they actually let you go behind the bar and mix drinks and this and that, where this time you couldn't go behind the bar, which we're guessing somebody must have did something. So now you can't go behind the bar, but they still had it where you could go up and you could shake different things. And so you could still do some of the stuff. You just couldn't do as much as you could when we had previously done it. So that was a good time. They had some of our longstanding favorites and then also some new ones. And it was definitely a good time. The price keeps going up each year that we've done it, but at least this time, it was definitely still worth the price. Now, if the price keeps going up, I don't know, but at least at this point, and I think it was $24, I think, for each of us. And you get the 5 different drinks. And one of them is pretty much like a full-size drink. It was like a vodka type drink. And they always end it, which is now my personal favorite, the Baby Guinness, which is a great way to end mixology class, because it's a drink that you definitely shouldn't have that and then drink a bunch of stuff on top of it. It's a nice, good ending drink where it's okay, I'm good for a while. I don't need to drink anything other than water for right now. So.
We've only done it once, but we really enjoyed it. It was back in the Meridian Lounge. I love that lounge back there, and we love Skyline too. So I wonder if it's going to change much with once the ship starts sailing again with the coronavirus thing.
I bet you it is.
If people can actually go up and be mixing each other's drinks now, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Probably not.
Stand by. Well. So this cruise featured a Star Wars day at sea. We can talk about that in just a second, but also featured a pirate night. What were your experiences for the pirate night? And then we'll get to Star Wars day at sea quick.
So pirate night, we didn't have the pirate menu. So because there's the Star Wars, they don't do pirate night menu. So I know that's some people's not favorite menu. So you just have the regular menu that night. And then they have the show and the fireworks. So we actually had 2 sets of fireworks on our cruise because we had pirate night and we had Star Wars night. The pirate fireworks, they were good. We watched the show and it was everything that we expected, except they don't have the buffet. And so that was one thing that a lot of people at the previous cruisers looking for the buffet, and there's no buffet because it is given on the Star Wars day at sea night. So they don't have two buffets. So that was a fun night. Everybody dressed up. We had our daughter dressed up, running around, and everybody had a good time. And then on the Star Wars day, because that starts at 10:15 the night before. So that night, it's not printed anywhere. They tell you at dinner, hey, 10:15, be in the atrium, wink, wink, nod, nod. And since we had Apollo that night, our daughter was in the nursery. And so it's okay, we can watch this because normally she would be in bed. So we were actually watch, and Darth Vader came out with the stormtroopers to announce, the ship has been taken over, and this is the kickoff. And it was a really cool way to start off the Star Wars day at sea. And so, the next morning, all the banners are up. You have different pictures of the Star Wars characters and cabanas. And then, as we're walking around, we see stormtroopers walking around the pool deck. The little guys, which I'm sure Star Wars aficionados are going to curse at me for, the little guys that trade trinkets in that.
The Jawas?
Yes, thank you. They're walking around trading anything and everything. And, it was just fun seeing the different, they would just randomly walk around. You could turn a corner, on deck 4 and there'd be a character standing there. They were definitely walking around. I know the main ones that you had to have the signups ahead of time, they had them in the different restaurants and kind of hidden away where you couldn't easily access them. But the other characters, you would see them walking around. They had a couple of them when we were in the adult pool. a couple of them kind of walking around the pool and just kind of like staring you down, like, what are you doing? You know, that type. And it was just kind of funny because different people to interact with them. And they never, I mean, to credit some of those folks, they never broke character. And I knew it had to be hard. I knew it had to be a challenge to like not laugh at some of the things. Because, you know, you have the adults in the adult pool. It's 3:00 in the afternoon.
They've had a beverage or two.
Yes. So it was pretty funny, the different things going on. And then they had the Star Wars menu, which I think was better than Pirate Night. It was a different type of menu. And then, you know, they're like, you know, make sure, you know, there's a buffet, you know, after the fireworks, and they had the show and the fireworks. And so we stayed up. My daughter miraculously stayed up for the show. I don't know how she did it. So all three of us got to go to the show. And the show, I'm sure there's going to be somebody else that's going to do Star Wars. I was a bit disappointed in this show because I've seen Pirate Night so many times, and I've seen this one, and they relied a lot on like video clips.
Okay.
Like they didn't have as much character interaction versus like they have, you know, the different things they do for Pirate Night. But for Star Wars, they relied a lot on the movies to tell the story, and maybe that's the best way to tell the Star Wars story. I'm not a big Star Wars aficionado, so somebody can come in and correct me, which is fine. It doesn't bother me, but it was just very, you know, video driven. To me, I was kind of like, okay, my kid's not going to, you know, react to this. There's people on stage she's going to react to. So we watched that. The fireworks were very cool with all the Star Wars, a soundtrack and everything. And then where we were, because we were towards the aft, I almost forgot. So on the starboard, I think it's starboard or port side. I always get them confused. The right side of the ship
Starboard.
had the Pirate Night. Yep.
Yep.
They had the Pirate Night fireworks. The opposite side had the Star Wars fireworks.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So,
okay.
So it was different that you could be on one side and the one night and see the Pirate Night, and then it was flipped for the other night.
Huh.
So we thought that was pretty cool because where we were kind of down by the cabanas on that side, and we had a great view of the fireworks, and we got there like right when the show started. So it's not like we'd camped out. So we really lucked out that the fireworks were right there, and she could see everything, which was pretty cool. And then because of where we were, we just had to walk down one flight of stairs. And boom, there was the buffet at Cabanas, which normally last year, it seemed like it was like 15 minutes and done. This one it was open for 45 minutes and both sides were open, which I'd never seen that before either. So it was pretty much, you had your time to go, you know, get your food, sit down, eat, go get seconds, sit down. I mean, they kept it open for a full 45 minutes, which the second side closed earlier, but I just had never seen it open for that long a period of time. And it was the exact same stuff that you'd see at Pirate Night. So, you know, they had the turkey leg, the nachos, the tacos, the desserts. So it was the exact same as Pirate Night. They just moved it from Pirate Night to Star Wars Night.
Gotcha. And then you could go top it off with ice cream after that.
Exactly. As long as it was before 11 o'clock, because they shut that sucker down right exactly at 11 o'clock.
Well, let's turn to the ports. You guys got to go to two main ports in the Castaway Cay. You start off with 2 days at sea, and then you're in Tortola. What did you guys have planned there, and what were some of your highlights?
So for Tortola, we decided we were just going to do a beach day. The year before, we kind of done different tours and that. And this year, we're like, okay, since she's more mobile, she's not going to want to sit on a tour. So let's just take her to the beach, which the horrible parents we hadn't actually taken her to a real beach, you know, since she's been born. So this was actually, Tortola was the first time she was in the ocean at a beach. And spoiler alert, she hated the sand.
No.
I set her down in the sand and she did the flamingo. One foot came straight up. The other one, she's staring at me like, pick me up. I don't want to touch this stuff. And we're like, the sand wasn't hot or anything, but she was just like, she did not like it. And so we had to carry her into the water, and it was just so funny because her dad was just like holding her, and she would get into the water because, like I said, she's been in swim lessons and that. But, you know, you try to, you know, get her to touch her feet in that sand, and she was like, I ain't having that, guys. This ain't working this way. And, you know, we showed her different kids, like, hey, look at, they're in the water, they're doing this, nope. She's like, nope, you're holding me this entire time. I am not getting in that sand. But she had a great time, and, you know, it was fun just, you know, being in the water. And, you know, a couple times she was trying to do some of her swim class moves, and so she definitely enjoyed it, which made us happy, you know, despite the whole not liking the sand part. But she definitely had fun playing in the water. And then, you know, the great parents that we are, we remembered that there was a distillery not too far down the road, and we'd actually asked, and they're like, oh yeah, it's only a 5-minute walk. You just walk here, and we're like, okay, why not? So we just walked the 5-minute walk, and, we stopped there to pick up some stuff for some friends that were watching our dog for us. And, the great parents we are, people are getting off adults only tour, and they see us walking in with a 2-year-old, and we're like, we're just getting something and leaving. Don't worry, she's not going to ruin, And of course, she's toddling around, all smiling, this and that, being the charmer that she is around people. And they're like, oh, it's so cute. And we're like, because, when you see an adults only tour come off, they're probably like, oh no, a kid. Yeah. Kid's going to cry. We're trying to enjoy ourselves. But she was very well behaved for all of them. And she just smiled, put on the charm, and let us get our stuff and leave and let them do their, their tasting and their tour. And they did their thing. And then we walked back to the beach and got on the taxi and went back to the port.
So you just got off the ship and got your own taxi then?
Yep. Yeah. We just got off and said, we want to go to Cane Garden Bay. They said, okay, here's the one that's going. And we probably waited maybe 5 minutes because it filled up pretty quick because we were on a smaller one. And so I think it was, what was it? I think it was 32 for the two of us because they didn't charge her. And then, of course, once we get there, the guy's like, oh, she's blah, blah, blah. And we're like, well, we were told she was free. So it ended up being, we just tipped the guy so he would stop bugging us about it. And so that, because otherwise he said she was like half price. We're like, she's sitting on our lap. Like, we're not paying $8 for her when she's sitting on our lap. So I think we ended up paying like $35 for the two of us. So we kind of keep him quiet. But that just got us, the round trip, to the beach. And then back. And then, we had to pay for the beach chairs and the umbrella. I think that ended up being, like $15 or $20, I think it was, for a spot to sit. And that was pretty much, it was a pretty calm day. We did that, and then we got back on the ship and ate, and then put her down for a nap and just kind of chilled. And we ended up we had this grand idea of, hey, let's go, let's jump off the boat real quick and see, grab some souvenirs or something while she's in the nursery. And we get off the boat and they're like, you realize you have 30 minutes. We're like, we're just going to the pier. We're not even, with ships in eyesight the entire time. We get off. We actually buy a 6-pack of the Carib beer, which, you can probably buy for $2
right
at, anywhere else. But, we bought a 6-pack, take on the ship. So it was like $16. We get back on, and the boat didn't leave till like 9:00.
Oh no.
So like everyone's giving us a hard time. Like, hurry. Boat didn't leave till 9:00. So it was like, yeah, we rushed and we had plenty of time.
Well, from there, you guys are on to San Juan the next day. You guys had sailed out of San Juan on the Wonder, but you didn't have a chance to spend some time in the city. What did you guys have planned there?
So there, my husband really wanted to go see the fort. He's a big history guy, so he wanted to go check that out. And so we had brought in a stroller. We hadn't used it the entire trip, but we knew we were going to do it in San Juan because of all the walking we were going to have to do. So we just got off the boat and we walked all the way. We kind of directed ourselves over to the fort. And it was, mind you, this was only February. It was a warm day. Like, it was like in the 80s. It was humid. We were definitely warm on that walk. It wasn't that long of a walk, but it was definitely warm that day. And walked through the fort, got to look around. It's not exactly the most stroller friendly. There's a lot of stairs. We ended up having to carry the stroller up and down some flights of stairs because the elevators were broken. So if you were somebody who had mobility issues, that was definitely not the day to go there. As well as the bathrooms were breaking down. So like the men's room, I think, was like on like 3 floors high. Like, you had to go into the physical fort to find a bathroom. And then the ladies' room was working. And then when I went to change her diaper when we were leaving, that shut down. So the facilities weren't exactly in the best shape that they could have been for that. But it was definitely fun to walk around, and we went to a grassy area where she could get up and run around in that. And so it was a good time. There were some really nice views because, you just look out at the ocean. It's just, you couldn't have seen bluer water. Just standing there looking at the water. It was just so perfectly blue. You couldn't, I don't think a picture could have done it justice, but, it was a good time. And, she got to run around. My husband got to get his history kick for the day. And the ticket that we got you into both forts. And so there was one other fort, it was about a mile down. And I just remember him looking at me going, yeah, no, I'm good.
I don't need to make that walk.
He's like, I'm good. Like, it's warm and this and that. And he's like, we're good. And it's like, okay. So we walked back and we went to stop, but we stopped at Walgreens because we had to pick up a couple of small things. And I swear that was the busiest Walgreens I've ever seen. The line to check out was like wrapped around the entire store. Like, it would probably rival some of the lines that are going on right now, people going to Costco to stock up on toilet paper. It was, because it was us import. There was 2 Royal ships. There was a Carnival ship, and then there ended up being another ship. So there ended up being 5 ships in total that day. And they had told us we actually gotten into San Juan an hour early because the captain said we're getting in early because there's going to be a lot of ships in port today. So they actually got us in an hour early. And now we understood why then, because once it got it just kept busier and busier. I mean, we were back on board, I think, by noon because we got off, we went to the fort, went to Walgreens, came back. We're like, and it was just, I mean, it was wall to wall people right around that cruise area. And we were just like, okay, yeah, we're good. We're going to take her, eat, go, she can take her nap. But that would be definitely something, if go back to San Juan, if I was on a ship, I would hope to go on a day where there's not so many ships in port. Cause that's what happened to us last year in St. Martin. There was 5 ships and like everything was just so packed that it wasn't worth it. And so we were glad we had gotten off earlier in San Juan. So we were able to do what we wanted to do. Cause if we gotten off at noon, I mean, it was so crowded and just so busy. It was just, it wouldn't have been worth it then. So I was glad that we had gotten up early to go out to the fort.
That is kind of cool that they got in there early for you. And so obviously, I was going to ask you a question if it felt busy. Obviously, it felt busy with that many ships in port. If it goes, the Greek cruise that we signed up for this summer, there was one day on Crete, I guess, where there was going to be 5 ships, I think, in town. Wow. Yeah, in port, and they Disney rearranged the schedule to a day where there's only going to be 2. So I think I don't know how easy it is for them to do that in the Caribbean per se, especially like when they've already got Tortola and San Juan kind of lined up. But I wonder how often they're able to do that, kind of look ahead to see when they might be able to make it a little bit easier for the guests as far as the crowds and whatnot. So.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's nice that they did that if you guys are still able to go, because it makes a world of difference. Like, we never really realized it until, like I said, last year in St. Martin when there was 5, and it was just so busy. And then this year with San Juan, that we were glad to get that we got off early and then got back on earlier.
That was the other thing, and I'm totally going on a weird tangent here, but like I remember in the Mediterranean, and then I guess I just kind of noticed it when we've gone to the Caribbean a couple times. It seems like Disney ships get in early, and in the Mediterranean it was a little bit different because they had MSC, which is an Italian-based cruise line. Obviously, they cruise all over the Caribbean as well, but it's mostly Europeans that sail over there on that cruise line. And it seems like they have more of wanting to be there and then be there in the evening so they can experience the nightlife. Whereas Disney, we're all like, mostly you had a lot of kids, and so it's like, let's just get there early, go spend the day, and then get back on the ship and go. So I wonder how much there is. That's a whole weird side tangent. Sorry, I'll cut that out. But
no, it makes sense. It makes sense though. But, because I think now that I think about it too, there was another ship actually where we had gotten on in San Juan last year. There was actually a royal ship ported there. And I was sitting on the deck while my daughter was sleeping, and I was like looking on the thing to see like, all right, what ships are in port that day, And I was trying to figure out, I was like, okay, I'm like, yeah, that's a royal ship. I'm like, dang, and it wasn't, a get on, embarkation, debarkation. It was just a regular port. And I was like, that had been an interesting experience to, instead of being at the old San Juan port, you're ported at where they do the embarkations and debarkations. So they would have probably had shuttles and all that for them, because you can't just walk off this boat there to go somewhere. You have to have some form of transportation to get out of there.
Well, let's turn to your final night then, or final day, Castaway Cay. What did you guys have planned that day? Your daughter didn't like the beach the first time. Hopefully round 2 was a little bit better.
It got a little bit better. Our plan that day was, try the water part 2. Let's see what she does. Unfortunate for us, the water was cooler than it was in Tortola. Tortola wasn't bad. Once you got in, you got used to it pretty quickly. Where at Castaway, it was definitely, you got in and it was, whoo, that's a little chilly in there. So what we ended up doing was, and this is one of my favorite things to do at Castaway, is we got a couple beach chairs and we just popped them right in the water. So we were able to sit in the water, and then she took turns sitting on our laps, and she would put her feet in the water, and she was like splashing them around in that, because the water was a bit too cold for her to be all the way in. So she was splashing around this, that, and I had gotten where she started touching the ground. I was like, oh, she's touching sand. She's liking sand. And then the bad decision that I made, I'm just going to put a little sand over her foot and see what happens. And that was the end of that.
Oh, no.
She's like, what is this sand on top of my foot? And she played, and I was like, why did I just do that? She was starting to touch it. She was fine. And I decided to be the genius of, let me put a little sand on her foot and see what happens. Nope. Even if I show her, hey, look, I'm in the sand, we're doing this. Nope. But she enjoyed just sitting. I mean, it was kind of nice where she was just sitting on her lap, drinking her juice and just, chilling, like life was good. So she was definitely chilling that day.
Did you guys eat on the island too, or?
Yes.
So did you spend the whole day while you're down there, or did you guys end up just spend a part of the time and then back on the ship?
we spent the morning down there. And one thing, I forgot to mention this earlier. So when we got off the ship, we saw they had one of the, because when you get off, they have like the different strollers and wagons and that to move around the island. So we actually got one of the wagons, which was great. We put her in the wagon, put our towels in there, all of our stuff. And so we could just wheel her around, which made it so much easier, even though in the sand, it gives you a workout for sure. So we did that. So we were able to walk around the island more because we did the beach in the morning. Then we went and ate at Cookies for lunchtime. And after that, we just, we put her in the wagon and we were able to kind of walk around, and we walked, from one end, not all the way down to like the adult section, but the whole like family beach section. We ended up walking up and down that area and seeing that and showing the different things. Cause once she gets older, she can go into the slides and all of that fun stuff. And we got to, watch some of the character dance parties and that, which she really enjoys, dancing, not too close to them, but, just dancing around in general. And, it was a nice kind of relaxing day, even though we had the back of our head of, okay, tomorrow's back to reality. And we were trying to treat the day because her birthday was the next day. That day was kind of like her, unofficial birthday with that day. So, trying to celebrate like, for your birthday, you got to go to Castaway Cay and you got to eat some ice cream and, all your favorite things and having, a nice fun beach day. And the only thing that happened that day, which is a little out of the ordinary, is my husband's pulling her on the wagon and I had gone to do something else. And all of a sudden he comes back and goes, "You're never going to believe what happened." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "She rolled out of the wagon." I'm like, "How in the world?" He goes, "Yeah, some guy stopped me and goes, 'Sir, is that your daughter?'" And she had somehow she was sitting up in the wagon. I still haven't figured out how she's done this. She apparently rolled backwards out of the wagon and was just like laying on the ground, not crying, but just kind of like, "Hey, what's up?"
Hey.
Yeah. And he's like, "Oh my, I'm so," he's like, "She's fine. She's not crying, Yeah. But it's like, how do you just slow roll out of a wagon? Like, how do you do that? But, that's just another story, crazy story of her. But yeah, so that was the highlight of our day of Castaway Cay, of her rolling out of the wagon. And after that, we took the shuttle back to the port. And one thing that we had noticed is that the post office never opened that day because we were going to try to send some postcards back, but the post office never opened. But they did have a sign at guest services that said, "If you want to send a postcard, give it to us. We'll get it out for you." So I don't know if that's still a thing from the hurricanes last year, but it was just really odd that we never saw it open.
It was open when we were there in October.
Oh, so okay, good.
Maybe there was just something going on maybe it was a holiday that day or something like that.
Could be.
Who knows?
You never know.
So note to self, if you do the 5K, or note to self, I guess what I'm trying to get at is if you are planning on pulling the wagon around through the sand, you don't need to do the 5Ks because you're going to get your workout with the wagon.
that is for sure.
And was it you that talked about the hammerhead shark?
Yes. So that was another thing that, oh my gosh, if I would have heard about that, like if I'd have been on the adult beach that day, I'd probably never get in the water again. So when we got back, we had heard, and we've seen the video, that there was a hammerhead shark on Serenity Bay. And so I guess that on that day, on the Castaway Day, there were people out there and they had seen something and they started coming back and they had lured the lifeguards and say, "Hey, we think we see something." And sure enough, it was chasing its lunch. And it got chased. The lunch went right into Serenity Bay. And so the shark followed. And so one of the lifeguards jumped on the jet ski and was basically kind of doing circles around it to try to get the shark to move out of the bay. So they called everybody out, but there was folks that were out like snorkeling, I guess, that they never heard anything. So like they're like way far out. And I guess it never dawned on them, hey, why is everybody on the beach? Why is nobody in the water? And I guess finally the lifeguard got to them and say, "Hey, you need to get out. Like you need to go to the beach." And so they had gotten out, but it took them quite some time to convince this shark to get out of Serenity Bay. I guess it was just fine looking for lunch in Serenity and not really moving. And so it definitely, a lot of people were kind of freaked out about it. But one of the things and this is, something for Disney, I guess, is that I guess they didn't have a procedure of when to say, "Okay, all clear, you can get back into the water." Because people were asking the lifeguards, like standing around, like, "Can we get back in?" And they're like, "I don't know. Can you, I guess they didn't have a protocol for it, or no one could remember what it was, because I think they were just taken aback by this hammerhead shark that was in Serenity Bay. So eventually they were able to get back in and enjoy their day. But yeah, it was definitely something scary that if I wouldn't have seen it like in person at the time, I'd probably and I'm not getting back in that water. But, luckily it wasn't me. I didn't see, I've seen the Facebook videos on it, but and it came from multiple sources, so I know it's a true story. But it's definitely scary to think about. And we also got to remember, it is the Disney bubble, but there's also, non-Disney bubble things that get into the bubble. There sharks can come in, and you still have to be aware of your surroundings. You can't just think, oh, I'm a castaway, everything is going to be fine. Unfortunately, sometimes, not so great things can happen. And, it was just, great thinking of the lifeguard to, even though I'm sure it probably scared to try to get that shark out of there so that, nothing would happen to any of the guests.
Yeah, that's a long ways out there for some of those snorkelers to be out there too,
Yeah.
So I could totally understand where maybe they didn't hear it or knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And there are I don't want to freak too many people out with it, because I've seen a video, maybe it was a year or two ago, with a shark that had been in Castaway Cay as well, somewhere in Serenity Bay that they had a video on. So it has happened before, and like you said, sometimes we all feel like we're in that Disney bubble, but things do happen. I want to, this is a total side note too, but I never really talked about this, but made me think about it. When we were there in October, there was a gentleman that had a medical issue. He was down kind of like you. He had his chair in the water and everything like that. And I was amazed at how fast somebody alerted the lifeguard. That lifeguard was down helping that gentleman right away. And another lifeguard got up into the chair and kind of took over their duties. So I was just totally amazed at how fast they kind of handled that situation, and then also had somebody up there, making sure that, if there was a shark out there, they could see it or something like that. So I want to give them a props for that, but I'm surprised that they didn't have something or some way to tell everybody, hey, it's clear to go back in the water now.
Yeah, that was the surprising part. But yeah, those lifeguards, I mean, there's somebody there every single time. There's never an empty post, because we were watching them in the water do their changes, and the guy was on a paddleboard and, paddling. He was go to relieve the other person, and then they would have to get on that and go. I mean, there was never a time where it was, okay, I'm going from this to this, that chair's empty. Nope. There was always somebody there at all times.
Right. Well, like you were saying, unfortunately, that last day with Castaway Cay, you head back, and you're back to Port Canaveral the next day with debarkation. Anything on that last day with debarkation that stood out for you guys?
I don't think so. The night before, we had celebrated her birthday.
Oh, that's what I wanted to ask. I'm sorry. Nope. What did they do for her birthday?
So for her birthday, and a little side note on this is she apparently made buddies with our head server. There was one morning when he was in working cabanas, that he'd seen her her favorite thing was pancakes, and she would just be gnawing on this everyone with the biggest smile on her face, like this was the best pancake she's ever eaten in her entire life. And he caught her one day, and he was just mesmerized. He's like, oh, I saw her with her pancake and this and that and all that. And so to celebrate her birthday, he came over himself to help sing her happy birthday. And he was leading it. He brought her dessert, and it was the cutest thing. And of course, by the end, she's crying because she's like, why are these people singing at me? Why are these people around me? I don't understand what's going on. But it was cute, because then after the end, as we're walking out, she gives him this, this big old hug, and it was like, oh, she had definitely made, a connection with him, and he had definitely, resonated on her. And it was a really sweet moment, other than the fact she got a little upset, towards the end. But it was cute that after the fact, she realized that was, that was very nice of them to do for her. And she ate her dessert, which gave her plenty of sugar, so she wouldn't go to bed that night. And then we'd have to get up early the next morning, which made it a little bit tougher day.
Did they give her a candle? Did she get to blow out a candle?
No. It was I think it was a sugar candy candle.
Okay.
Blow sugar.
I've seen people's birthdays, but it's always been on the other side of the room, and so they get they try and get everybody singing happy birthday at one point, but I have not been that close. So I was always kind of curious what they got. So, well, I'm glad she had that special moment, and that's what I'm sure that's why we all go back to Disney Cruise Line, just because of that those one-on-one interactions like that. That's so cool. So you guys get back, nothing with embarkation. Kind of thinking back on this cruise as we wrap it up today, Jenny. What are some tips that we haven't talked about, or things that we haven't talked about, that you might offer somebody that's traveling with, either as you did last time with a much younger newborn, or with a 2-year-old?
I would definitely say, well, one thing, if you can and you feel comfortable, and if you're flying in the day before, order things ahead of time and have them delivered. Like for us, we had a Target delivery for all of her diapers and wipes, so we wouldn't have to pack them. We packed a separate duffel bag to put these items in to take on the ship. And it made life so much easier, because that probably would have been its own suitcase with her diapers and wipes. And we also got some bottled water. That would have been its own suitcase. But since we were able to have it delivered, we ordered from Target, 2 hours later it showed up. I mean, that was great. And I would definitely do that again in a heartbeat for any last minute items, because that worked out really well. And we had no issues dropping that off and having that delivered to our room. We didn't have to carry any of that on. So that was great. As well as our seatmates at dinner, they, like I said, they had a 9-month-old. And so they asked them, like, what do you want pureed? What do you want food? And it's no joke how much food they will give you pureed. Like, it's a good, I would probably say 2 cups of whatever fruit or vegetable you ask for. And one night they're like, oh yeah, we'll take like pears and carrots and something else.
Oh no.
And the next night, oh yeah, there was probably 4 cups of this pureed stuff. And this kid probably ate 3 tablespoons.
Oh no.
Like, kid you not. And it was, I mean, they had so much, they finally had to tell him stop. Like, we appreciate it. Like, he'll just eat off, he'll have his milk, his formula, and, some bread. And that's because so much food was going to waste because they make it in such big quantities. And I've heard other people say this too. I mean, and they ask them, like, can you bring out less? And they're like, well, this is what, it equals. And it's like, man, like, so much of that goes to waste. I mean, it's ridiculous. I think what else? Oh, one other thing I forgot to touch on. So we did the Disney Junior Character Breakfast. And this was something that it's probably going to take me a lot to recommend this, just because of a couple things. Well, one, it's not going to be the same speed as your dinner. It's a character breakfast. It's a very quick moving thing, which we knew ahead of time coming into this, where you sit down, you get your pastries, you give them your drink order, you give them your food order, and then characters start coming pretty much as soon as you order. And they all come through at a pretty decent click. And then your food comes very quickly, you eat. And I mean, they turn it over very, very quickly, in which we were prepared for. So we knew what to expect. Unfortunately for our experience, our server forgot about us.
Oh no.
Like, we sat down, we got our menus. We weren't asked for drinks. We had to flag someone down to get milk for our daughter. Somebody came around and said, do you want coffee? Yes. Still waited for something for my husband to drink because he doesn't drink coffee. Finally came through. Okay, what do you want to drink? Okay, what's your food order? Then characters started coming. Okay. We had all of our characters come through before we even got our food. And all the tables around us had already gotten their food. And it was like, what is going, like, I was very disappointed about the service. I mean, the characters were great. The characters did their thing. It was awesome. They were, very accommodating and that. But the service, I mean, we maybe had seen our server not even 5 times.
Was it
like, because we were having to flag down different people to get something because he was not. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Were you sitting in a weird spot or something? I mean, we've had those, not necessarily on Disney Cruise Line, but just in other, in restaurants or whatever, and like they put you in some weird spot, and for some reason you're just like this. You're not assigned to a server, and then you just get left. And was it anything like that? You think, or?
Well, we were right next to, like, I don't know what they call them, like the prep stations where like they're taking the tops off and that. So like we were right in like the main, like people walking by all the time.
So people are seeing you. Yeah. Okay.
And so, and that was the only time I've ever complained. Like when we were walking out, I spotted the head server and I said, hey, are you the head server? He said, yes. I said, okay, I just really quickly wanted to tell you about my experience, and because my biggest thing is, okay, my husband and I, we can wait. But my daughter, she needs something to drink.
Right.
Like, we had her cup ready to go, and like we're having to flag someone down to get milk. And we're seeing other tables, people coming by saying, what do you want to drink? What do you want to drink? What do you want? And no one did that. And so, I told him, I said, we had to wait 10 minutes just for a glass of milk for my daughter. The food took a super long time. Everyone was eating and drinking around us, but we weren't getting anything. We hardly saw the server. And, they took our things very seriously. And I personally, part of me felt bad, but I'm like, but you know what? Like, this isn't about me. It's about my kid.
Right.
Like, if you don't take care of my kid, that's not going to make the parents happy. And, and unfortunately, I didn't know the name of the server because, again, we barely saw him.
Right.
So how could I know? Because they're like, well, what table are you at? And I said, well, I pointed to the table. I said, this is where we were at. I don't know the server's name, da-da-da. And then that night, we had mentioned something to our serving staff because that was the same night when we were in Royal Court. Our service was slow, and that's when he told us what's going on. And I said, I appreciate you telling us what was going on in the kitchen because here's the experience we had this morning. And he started apologizing profusely. And I'm like, this isn't your fault. You weren't there. It's not you. And then the following night, we actually had our head server come and apologize to us and say, I'm so sorry about your experience. And I said, I appreciate that. I'm like, it's not your fault. But I appreciate you guys doing, saying this and all this and that. He's like, whatever we can do, please let us know for the rest of the cruise. If there's any little thing we can do, just let us know. I mean, they were very, apologetic about it, which, we appreciated because we definitely knew it was noted because it went all the way up to our head server that, he seeked us out. And then at that point, he came by every single night to check on our service, even though it had nothing to do with our serving team, absolutely nothing. He would come by every single night after that to say, how is everything? What can we do? Are you getting everything you need? Is she happy? She ended up getting like a stuffed, like little plush Stitch, like the small, probably the size of your hand. He just gave it to her. He's like, here's something for, and we're like, whoa, okay. And our table mates, he got a baby Groot. So, whatever we got, they got, which was great for them. Cause it's like, hey, we had something happen to us, but we're sharing, whatever we get with you guys. And they did comp us, I think it was a bottle of champagne one night too, sure, for our troubles that we had, which our seatmates enjoyed as well. But, I felt bad at the time complaining, but it was like, you're messing with my kid, she's thirsty. She wants something. Why are we not being taken care of? So I guess moral of my story, that is, if something like that happens, don't be afraid to say something, because they are so much on service. They're going to fix it, and they're going to go above and beyond for the rest of your cruise to make sure you're okay, because they don't want that same thing to happen twice. Because once, if it happens, yeah, it stinks. But if it happens twice, it's a bigger problem. Yeah. And so, that, like I said, it meant a lot to us that our serving team kept apologizing, even though it had nothing to do with them. Like, they were sweet. They had, they didn't do anything wrong. But and I felt bad. I'm like, you guys, it's not your fault, guys. Please stop. Like, it's not your fault. But, they're having to bear the brunt of somebody else's mistake, which is not fair. But, they want to make sure at the end of the day that, we're all happy.
Right. Well, I think it just goes to show the pride that they take in their jobs, and as far as trying to keep you happy for the rest of it once they heard that something had happened to you guys. So, and I think you did the right thing as far as speaking up, because like you said, I mean, in the service industry, if you don't give anybody feedback, then you just never know, and you hate to see that happen to somebody else. So, yeah. Well, I think I know the answer to this, but not to end it on a negative note. But did you guys book another cruise while you were on board? Did you get a placeholder, or what's next for you guys?
So we do have a placeholder. I'm kind of kicking myself because prices did kind of go up for February of next year. So part of me is kicking myself for not just going ahead and, booking something to have it instead of just having a placeholder. But we do have a placeholder set. We actually have one that we used that we got from our last cruise that we still haven't used. So we still have to use that one up. So yeah, we definitely have a placeholder booked. We're definitely looking at, we kind of liked that the time we went this year, because it was a nice break. Because the holiday season's always chaotic, and then that ends, it's kind of like, okay, now what? And it was kind of nice where we went 5 or 6 weeks after the holidays ended, we went on this cruise, and the timing was great. We got to celebrate our daughter's birthday, and it was a good amount of time in between the holidays and that. And then, now we're looking forward, towards Memorial Day and summer. So it was kind of a good timing in regards to, you have something to look forward to after the holidays, and that happens, and it's okay. Now knock on wood, we get to go back to Disney, and we have that to look forward to. So, we're hoping, we've done Eastern now with her. Now we're like, okay, we can do Western with her, because we've been to the Western Islands, so we can definitely do that with her, because that'll be a different experience because she will be there. But I'm definitely not opposed to doing the Eastern, because they do have it for next year, where they changed their itinerary up, where instead of going to, I think it's Tortola, I think they go to St. Martin instead. So it's St. Martin and St. Thomas, which she hasn't done either one of she's done St. Martin, but she hasn't done St. Thomas. And now that she's more mobile, it'll be a bit more of a different experience. So, but we're still thinking about things and, seeing, how prices shake out. If this is still going to be a steep climb, you might have to change some things. But yeah, we're definitely looking forward to, hopefully, knock on wood, sailing again next year. Because it's kind of started into our thing of, okay, when we sail next year, when we go next year, it's like, okay, we now are talking in that mindset of we're going next year. So no, we just got to make it happen.
Yeah, that's a perfect time to go. It seems like, you get the busyness of the holidays, you get a little bit of a break, and it gives you something to look forward to just that month after. So, well, we look forward to hearing what you guys decide. And once you take that cruise, Jenny, we'd love to catch back up with you and your daughter and see if she enjoys the sand next time when she sails on Disney Cruise Line.
Yeah, absolutely. I know my husband will probably be looking more forward to it than all of us combined.
Well, let's all keep our fingers crossed. The ships will be sailing again soon. I know we got a little bit of a blip right now, and look forward to talking with you soon and hearing about all your next travels when you go with Disney Cruise Line, Jenny. So thanks again for coming on today, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good.
All right, bye. Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Jenny for coming on and sharing her and her family's latest sailing with Disney Cruise Line as they sail to the Eastern Caribbean on the beautiful Disney Fantasy. Well, with the ships not sailing still, and we're not sure when that's going to begin, we are going to turn our focus on to some different vacations people are taking this summer. We're going to take a look at our family's trip as we went to Yellowstone this past June, and then we'll be bringing you some other ones as well. We still have a lot of good Disney Cruise Line content that we are going to continue to bring out to you each and every week as well. So between now and our next show, if you would like to come on and talk some Disney Cruise Line, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney, you can go ahead and drop me a line, steve@dclpodcast.com. Once again, that's steve@dclpodcast.com. Reach out and we will get you lined up to come on and talk about your family's experiences with either Disney Cruise Line, Run Disney, or Adventures by Disney as well. If you would like to support our show, you can do so through our Patreon program. Go over to patreon.com/DCLpodcast. And if you have time and you're enjoying these shows, we sure would appreciate it if you go over to iTunes and leave us a review. That helps us get our show known out in the podcasting and the cruising community. It helps people find our show and brings new listeners in as well. We sure do appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to go over and do that. Well, between now and our next show, if you are heading out on your staycation or your summer vacation, some kind of alternative vacation, all of us here at the DCL Podcast, myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, wish you be well, be safe out there, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.